Welcome back. This is episode 148 of the NYYST podcast. I am your host, Christian. As always, joined by my co-host, Chris.
You.
And stat guy, Rye.
What up?
Ugh. It's unfortunately the post-mortem of the 2019 New York Yankees season. We're recording Monday night. Chris was way too depressed to talk yesterday.
Can I be honest? It wasn't that I was way too depressed. First of all, my grandmother turned like 90 yesterday.
No excuses. So you mean to tell me if they had played Game 7 last night, you were going to
No, I would have FaceTimed her. But no, it wasn't just that. I wanted to be a little more emotionally removed from it. I didn't just want to come on here and speak what I was feeling in the moment. I was still too connected yesterday. Is that fair?
No, and I said that to you earlier today that even though I would have liked to have been out on Monday morning, that I think an extra 24 hours, now we can kind of do something a little bit different than all the other shows are doing, where everybody was just like in their feelings in the moment. Now we're a little bit more removed from it. We can talk about this in a little bit more rational sense, that maybe if we would have done this yesterday when it was still kind of raw, we wouldn't have been able to.
Right. Like you would have gotten a raw emotion. It would have been erratic. But I mean, this is unfortunately our third time doing this now. So we know how to have a successful therapeutic season-ending show.
Can I just say something before we actually get into this? I found out that my niece watches us on YouTube.
Okay.
Yeah. And because she goes to college, she's up in Bloomsburg University. I'm not going to give her name away, but she knows who she is.
I'll give it away after the show.
Okay. So I'm very happy that she's actually watching us on YouTube instead of doing dumb shit that I used to do when I was in college.
How do you know she doesn't do dumb shit and then watch us on YouTube?
I'm just saying that somebody that watches her uncle in a YouTube show isn't probably going to get banged up like I did back in college. Okay.
Who's to say she's not eating a sandwich?
Has your niece
and then watching us on YouTube
left us a 5-star rating and review?
Yeah. Hey, niece, leave us a 5-star rating and review on iTunes, or on what did she watch this on YouTube?
On the boob tube.
Yeah, and everybody else too. 5-star rating.
Might as
If
well,
you're
right?
watching this right now, just fucking subscribe.
What else is there to
anywhere.
do? You know,
Man.
If 5-star rating and review, what was the most disappointing part about this season, other than obviously falling short sucked? But what really, really disappointed you the most out of this season? It could be anything. It could be a player. It could be
2 words. Domingo Herman.
if that's how you feel.
That is how I feel.
Before we actually get into everything that we want to get into today, she told me, she actually told my wife, that she fell off her bed laughing of the idea of you getting punched in the face.
Okay.
And the glass, she envisioned you getting the glass
in my eye,
getting caught in your eye, and she said it was one of the most funny things she's ever heard.
Hey, cousin to be named later.
She's my niece.
Not funny.
pretty funny.
Well,
Funny.
Like Meatloaf said, 2 out of 3 ain't bad. Well, 2 out of 3 think it's funny, so you're beat on that one, bro.
Yeah.
So, sorry. So, she said, at least you could do is shout me out, and I did. So, there you go, niece. Okay? Anyway, now, where do you want to begin?
Feel your feelings, man.
All right, so do you want to everybody take a couple minutes and feel your feelings instead of going like everybody interjecting? Do you just want everybody just get it out?
Get it out.
Do you want to go first?
Do you want to go first?
I'm asking you. If
I'll
you
go
want,
first.
All right, go first then.
I'm really good at feeling my feelings, man. All right, here's how I feel. I'm extra pissed off because there's so many things that went into this. I mean, first and foremost, this is 2019. This is the year that we've been hearing about over and over. I said it in a tweet. This was the year until it wasn't. And that hurt. The second part of this, how good this team looked in the ALDS. I don't care that they were playing the Twins. This team, the Twins were a good team. That Twins team was probably the most dangerous Twins team that we've faced. And we made them look like garbage. We made them look like they didn't even belong on the same baseball field. And then you come out in game 1 and you shut this team out. You didn't just beat them.
Yeah.
You shut them out 7-0 in their home ballpark against the guy that they went out and got at the trade deadline. And everyone else thought that this guy is what put them over the top. And even though he didn't give up all the runs, he actually pitched a decent game. You won that ball game at Houston. And then it's like this dark cloud just came over this team. And they were like, guys, slow down. You're not supposed to all produce like this in the postseason. And just like that, this team turned into a different team. They pressed. You had guys coming through previously that no longer were coming through. You had this narrative around this team that they were living up to, and it wasn't a good one. And it's just like game after game, you just waited for the season to be over. When DJ hit that home run to tie the game, it was probably the most exciting moment I've felt in a long, long time, man. Me and Stat Guy Rye were jumping up and down like we were 8 years old.
It was pretty awesome.
But there was something in the back of my mind, because I kept saying it out loud, you can't lose this game. You can't lose this game. Where in the past I'd say, fuck that, man. This team, there's no way they're losing this game now. I just kept saying it out loud. You can't lose this game, because there was something about that game, something about this series, no matter how good this Yankees team was, that you just knew they weren't destined to win it. And I was almost pissed off about that, feeling that throughout the entire series more than I was about them actually losing. That for whatever reason, even though this was supposed to be our year, even though this team won the division, for whatever reason, you just felt like it wasn't their series to win. And that's what upset me. And of course, as that ball crushes off the stupid-ass wall in left center field and sends the Astros into the World Series, I was right. They were not destined to win it. And what pissed me off more than anything, and this will be my last point, not the overly passionate and irrational fans on Twitter and anywhere else you look, it was, call me stupid, I don't care, Aroldis Chapman smirk as Altuve rounded the bases, and I'm sitting there after 162 games plus 9 postseason games of just sitting on the edge of my seat and dying for this team to win a pennant. It was Aroldis Chapman with the smirk on his face, like this was some type of fucking joke that he just gave away the pennant. After this team fought day in and day out the entire season. That's what pissed me off the most. Because I know that that's his way of handling situations like this. You've seen him smirk in the regular season, but this was no time to have any type of smile on your face. This was a failure, and you were at the head of it on that pitch. I'm done.
All right, Ryan, you want to go next?
Sure. You know, for me, it's I shut down. I get quiet, angry, disappointed when it first happens, and it's tough. Those first 24 hours, it's hard. You wake up the next day, you forgot that it happened, and then it pops back into your mind. That sucks. But Aaron Judge said in the postgame, I think it was, that this season was a failure, and I've been trying to wrap my head around that statement. Was this season truly a complete failure? And we said before the year started that if they didn't make the World Series this year, I think that was the benchmark we made, that if the Yankees...
That's what mine was.
Yeah, I think we all agreed on that if the Yankees didn't make the World Series this year, then we would have deemed this a failure of a season. But then you kind of just got to take a step back and look at the adversity that this team went through for an entire season and still managed to win 103, right? 103 games. You look at that and you have to be impressed. You look at the storylines that this team was able to produce throughout the regular season. And look, I know this is a glass half full kind of take, and it's, if you do feel like the season was a failure, you have every right to feel that way. But I can't say that this was a complete failure when you have guys like Gio Urshela coming through that you had no idea was going to be this kind of player, and now he is a staple in this Yankees lineup going forward, I think. And you had a guy who had a season, at least in my recollection, I have never seen a season that DJ LeMahieu had this year for the New York Yankees. It has been year after year of 250 averages, guys who hit for power and don't hit for average. And this guy was a breath of fresh air for me, because that's what made me love the game, was seeing guys who just went out there and hit the ball and played baseball the way it was supposed to be played. And DJ LeMahieu was the epitome of that. And I was grateful to be able to watch him on the Yankees this year, because we've known a lot about him, that he was something special with the Rockies, and the narrative was, will that translate out of Coors Field into Yankee Stadium? And it friggin' did. And then some. Not only it didn't just translate, it improved. So when you have those storylines, going into this year, if any other team in baseball started without their ace pitcher, without their best bullpen arm in Dellin Betances, without their starting center fielder in Aaron Hicks, without their starting shortstop in Didi Gregorius, with Miguel Andujar going down immediately for the year, that is a ridiculous amount of adversity to overcome. And the Yankees, for the most part, did overcome that, but it just was too much to overcome in the end, because they needed Dellin Betances. They needed that stupid idiot Domingo Germán to be there in that series. They needed a healthy Giancarlo Stanton, and they just didn't have it, because that was the theme of the year. Next man up, right? Next man up. But that next man didn't show up in the end there against Houston, and it hurts, man. It hurts. It's good to vent right now. This feels good talking it out. But that sucked, man. And it is a disappointment of a season for sure. But I'm not calling the season a failure, because we got to watch DJ LeMahieu, who might just be a future big piece for this team. And we saw Gleyber Torres really shine and become a superstar. And I get it, man. It hurts. But this is a team, in my opinion, that has some years left on it. The gas tank is not on E right now. It's about halfway full, I'd say. So there's still room to win with this group. And I look forward to the next year. It's going to be tough, and I'm going to watch every game again probably next year. Sure, I don't know right now. But it was a fun year, and I'm glad I got to do this with you guys again this year. This is really great.
Are you retiring?
No, I'm not. I'm just saying that this is really awesome to be able to, talk Yankees with you guys all the time. And it just sucks, man. It sucks that we couldn't celebrate together, because, Christian and I, we weren't really close until we started doing this. And it would have been nice to celebrate with you too.
If Christian came over for it.
I think he would have been here for the 7th game.
No,
right, well, whatever. Regardless, we would have found a way to celebrate with one another. So that's the biggest thing, I just wanted to enjoy it and really just sit back and say they did it. And we have to wait another year for that.
Yep.
I don't even know where to begin, because there's so many thoughts that are running through my mind. I've tweeted a bunch of them, and I'm going to try to put it out verbally in one monologue, I guess you could say. And I'm in agreement with Ryan in the sense that I don't want to call this season a failure, because you can, we're all gonna go back and look at the guys and the days, the games that were missed by key components of this team, and then there was even injuries to the backups. Gio Urshela was on the IL. You had guys that stepped up and they got hurt too, and then their replacements came in. So to see that, I mean, that you don't want to say that was a failure of a season, because in my mind, you have to take some solace in the fact that this team still fought and scrapped and got themselves to 103 wins. And I'm not saying that I'm satisfied with just being a 100-win team and losing in the American League Championship Series, but I'm saying with the storylines around this team this season that they got to that point, I can't. If they were healthy all year and they won 100-plus games and flamed out like this, yeah, I would slap a big fat F on it. But this was one of the most fun regular seasons I can remember watching in a really, really long time. And because of that, it made you proud to be a fan. And, so you don't want to say that it was a complete and abject failure. But in the end, it is. And it's massively disappointing that they didn't make the World Series this year. And we sat here on this show and we talked about it. We gave our full trust to Brian Cashman when he told us in 2016 that he said, hey, guys, I'm going to rebuild this team, And in 2019, that's going to be the year. This is going to be the year you can start judging me on and judging my vision for the New York Yankees. That's why last year, as much as it sucked to see them get their asses kicked by Boston, it didn't really bother me that much because I still felt that was a rebuilding year. And that's what I was told. And you know what? Maybe it's my fault for listening to Brian Cashman and trusting him, and we'll see. We'll see if we were all wrong in that. But where I draw the line is 2020. You need to be in the World Series in 2020 or you got to stop running this team. I'm sorry. That's just the way I feel right now. And you guys know, and the listeners of this show know, that I'm not the DFA everybody person. I'm not the fire the manager person. But you've had now, 16, 17, 18, 19, 4 years going into the 5th season of when you convinced Hal Steinbrenner to let you run the team the way that you wanted to. And if you don't deliver at least an American League championship to me, you got to go. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. And you know how much I love Aaron Boone, and I think he's done a fantastic job this year. And honest to God, I don't think anybody else gets the Yankees to 103 wins besides Aaron Boone, because we said it 103 times on this show that you got to give him credit just for being able to keep this team together. Go back and look at those lineups that they had when they played the San Francisco Giants. You wanted to fucking puke when you saw them, and they swept that series. Now, granted, San Francisco's not a great team, but come on, guys, when you trying out guys that you never even heard of, like, outside of Luke Voigt and DJ LeMahieu, I mean, come on now. You gotta give the manager credit for that. But again, if you don't get me to the World Series in 2020, he's got to go too. I'm sorry. 3 years for a manager that doesn't get me at least a pennant is enough. Joe Girardi got 10 years. He gave me a World Series. Joe Torre was how long? He gave me 4 World Series. Aaron Boone's got to give me something. I got to get something out of 2020, or I want to see changes on this team. And I think I'm being fair in saying that. I don't think I'm overreacting to the loss. I just think that it's time now where we start seeing results as fans. Making it to the American League Championship Series is not enough. Mike Francesa said this today to some caller that called in and said, well, Mike, every year we're going to, we're going to field a competitive team. And he's like, basically saying bullshit. That's bullshit, because do you want to be do you just want to be everybody else, or do you want to be the New York Yankees? Do you want to be everybody else? Do you want to be the 29 other teams in Major League Baseball, or do you want to be the New York Yankees? I want to be the fucking New York Yankees. I want to be the person. I want to be the fan of a team that everybody hates because they're so good. They're envious of us. They're jealous of us. They can't stand the fact that we win every year. Right now, we're a fucking laughingstock because we still have a high payroll. We still have all these superstars, and now we've lost 4 consecutive ALCSs, right? 4 straight ALCSs. The Yankees cannot get over the hump. That's unacceptable. I'm sorry. That is unacceptable. And I'm telling you right now, 2020 is my final straw. I'm gonna be calling for changes if they don't get. And again, do they have to win in 2020? Do they have to win it all in 2020? Absolutely, they do. No questions asked. But if they get there and fall short, I'll be willing to give them another year. But they cannot fall short of the World Series in 2020. Absolutely can't do it. And there's a lot of reasons why this hurts more than it does in other years, because of that promise to us that 2019, I have a vision, I have a plan. Well, you know what, Brian Cashman? Obviously, your vision and your plan did not work out this year. We gave you the benefit of the doubt. Justin Verlander, Garrett Cole, Patrick Corbin, this one, that one. We all saw the reasonings why you didn't get him, but you needed one of them. And granted, we'll get into this in a few minutes. It's not the reason why the Yankees lost this series, in my opinion, that they didn't have an ace. But it goes to show you how much easier it would have been to win this series if you had one.
I think that's very fair.
Yep, agree.
And who was the big guy that you went out and said in 2008, I need this guy to win a World Series? CC Sabathia, right? That's why this one hurts, because that man deserved to go out. His last moment as a Major League Baseball player should have been on a parade float, not hanging, not holding together what was left of his shoulder. That's what he deserved, and we didn't do that. You, as the general manager of this ball club, you did not provide enough talent around him to do that. And I'm sorry that's on him. That's why that hurts, because CC Sabathia deserved more than that. You saw Joe Girardi fucking crying after the guy's shoulder literally fell off his body. Why? Because everybody loves and respects CC Sabathia. The ultimate teammate, right? That's what they all said about him.
Yep.
He deserved more than that, and we couldn't give it to him. And another thing, I just turned 36 years old. Every year, it just seems longer and more arduous to get back to the same point. And I'm not saying I'm dying or, I'm not going to have another good 30 years, but how many times do we have to get to? It takes so long. It takes so long to get to this point to fall short. I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to get to this point to fall short. It's such now. Look, now here we go. Now we're in the middle. We're mid to late October, November, December, January, February. That's 4 months before you see anybody touch a baseball again. So I got 4 months no baseball. Then I got to go through a month and a half of spring training where it's just basically like a giant cock tease. It's what it comes down to. You get a little bit, but you're not really getting anything. You get to see people play baseball, but it doesn't mean anything. You can get your hopes up and be like, wow, baseball's right around the corner. And then it's 7 months. It's 7 long months where it's every single day. This becomes your life. If you are a diehard fan of a baseball team, it becomes your life. You're with this team day in and day out for 7 months. And then it all ends and you get nothing out of it.
Yep.
That's why. And I never really thought of, never really hit me like that until after they lost on Saturday night. I got to get it back. And look, I'm old enough, man. 96 to 2000, 2009, nobody's going to cry a river for me because everybody knows that there's teams that haven't won shit in that span. But like I just said, I'm a fan of the Yankees. I don't want to be like everybody else. Look, man, I'm pissed off. I'll tell you, you want to see how petty I am? I'm mad that they lost because I wanted to buy a new fucking hat that said World Series on the side of it.
Can I make you one?
No, because they didn't make the World Series. I'm sorry. I want to be able to walk into Modell's and drop $300 on World Series gear every single fucking year. And have my wife yell at me and say, do you really need to spend the money on that? And I say, yes, I do.
My wife said you're too loud. I told her you're almost done.
I'm sorry, please. You know what? Your wife can back off, okay? I'm trying to feel my feelings over here. If she doesn't like it, she can take the kids and go sleep in the van outside, okay?
That's not your call. Listen, so you're calling for Cashman's head. If they don't do it,
they have to win next. This is it. This is my final straw for him. This is it. And if you think I'm being irrational, you can tell me, but I don't think so. I think we've given him enough time here.
I don't really see it as irrational.
I don't necessarily agree with you, but I don't think you're wrong by any means. I don't know how much changing a general manager is going to do to put this team over the top. But what I can guarantee you is... It
doesn't matter. You know what? When you sell somebody something and it doesn't come through...
I agree.
That should cost you your job.
I agree. But for me, the biggest thing is one of these guys has to be signed, right? I don't know if I would necessarily call for his head if they don't make it, but I can guarantee you I'm not sitting here defending him next season if one of these guys like Cole or Strasburg is not signed.
We'll get into Cole a little bit later on in the show. I don't want to...
I
get
know.
Too
I'm
deep
just
into off-season moves because that's what will come.
What I'm telling you is,
further shows.
I agree with you that something has to be done. Those are just the smaller things outside of the big picture, or what I'm more focused on to see out of him at this point. Because I don't know if I'll call for everyone's head. I just know that there's no more excuses that are going to be made. And just like you, I don't think it's what cost them the series, but you're 100% right in saying, man, this you don't want to say it would have been a cakewalk, but this shit would have been a lot easier. And they're probably in the World Series if they do have that type of workhorse on this rotation.
And I don't know if you guys heard, I was on with our buddy Munch. He asked me to come on and do a few minutes with him Saturday before Game 6. And I told him, I said, I think the Yankees can win tonight, but I would have had, I had no good feeling whatsoever about Game 7 because they had nowhere to go. They had absolutely nowhere to go. They would have had to gone out there and blitzed Garrett Cole for 20 runs in the first inning for them to be able to win Game 7 because you saw Tommy Kahnle was on fumes, Chad Green was on fumes, even Britton was running out of it a little bit. And if he doesn't give up that home run to Altuve, Aroldis Chapman would have had to gone 2 innings just to keep that game going. And what would you have had out of Aroldis Chapman in Game 7? So, you know what? Here's a guy now that really proved a lot to me in Game 5 of this series, and that was James Paxton. He dropped his balls out on that mound, and he said, "We're not going home tonight." He said that. He told his manager, "I'm good. Let's go. Let's fucking go."
That's exactly what he said.
And then he nearly
verbatim.
He nearly went because if they're using juice balls, that ball's probably out of the ballpark. But you know what? How many times have we seen that he's had a terrible first inning and he didn't let that shit snowball? He did not. He gave a 1 run and he settled in there and he pitched a phenomenal game. So now I'm confident that we have one guy. Do we have 2 guys? Is Luis Severino the guy again? We have nothing to go on.
I have no idea.
We have absolutely nothing to go on.
I have no clue.
He looked decent, solid, good, whatever.
Not even.
But what was he giving him? 4 innings?
Right. That's not a guy. Now, how much of that has to do with the fact that he was hurt all year, I don't know. But that's not a guy.
Again, Masahiro Tanaka. He's can pitch to a 4.8. 5, 10, 19, 30, 70 ERA in the regular season. It's not going to change my opinion of what he does in the postseason, even though he didn't have a great game. That was Game 4, right? When he got hit up a little bit. He gave it 4 runs. Okay, so he had his first bad postseason start. Big deal. I'm not really too concerned about it. If you put an ace in front of those 3 guys, you have the best team in Major League Baseball. A legitimate ace in front of those 3 guys. You have the best team in Major League Baseball. And we'll talk about that a little bit more at the end of the show when we get to Garrett Cole. But right now, I'm going to read you these numbers here. Okay, these are the numbers of the American League Championship Series. Runs, Yankees scored more runs than the Houston Astros. Average, Yankees had a higher average than the Houston Astros. Average of runners in scoring position, the Yankees had a higher average than the Houston Astros. Home runs, Yankees hit more home runs than the Houston Astros. Starters ERA, the Yankees had a lower starters ERA than the Houston Astros. Bullpen ERA, the Yankees had a lower bullpen ERA than the Houston Astros. Wins, the Houston Astros won the series 4-2. How is that even possible?
Very inflated from Game 1.
It's a statistical anomaly that and they're not even. Runs were close, but 20 points on average, 70 points on runners in scoring position. Starters ERA, 0.3. Almost 2 full runs in bullpen ERA. And you lose the series.
Shitty, man. It makes it so much worse.
Yeah, it does make it much worse. I didn't know that.
So what went wrong? What went wrong? What do you attribute to this failure?
The inability to hit runners in scoring position.
You just said they had a higher average, so that's not it.
Yes. That was the Yankees' reason. It has nothing to do with what the Astros did.
Here's where I disagree. Clearly, the numbers show you it does not have to do with that. It has to do with what Ryan always says, timing. Didn't matter where they hit with runners. It didn't matter how many times they hit with runners in scoring position. It was where and when they did it.
They never did it.
They never did it in the moments that they truly needed to. And it was all about the Astros when they did do it, that it was the biggest moments of the entire series.
They hit 100 runners in scoring position. I guarantee you all 3 of those 3 hits are Springer's 3-run home run, Correa's 3-run home run,
Correct.
and Gurriel's 3-run home run. I don't think anybody else on that team had a hit with runners in scoring position.
There you go.
And the Yankees had opportunity after opportunity after opportunity for somebody to get a hit, and nobody got a hit after game 1. And okay, you want to say, Hicksy had a big home run, but they didn't do anything. They didn't do a damn thing after that.
Hey, thank God he had that home run, because if he didn't, they didn't do anything. I mean, thank God the whole game 6 was based on one swing of the bat in game 5, because if he doesn't hit that home run, the game's over. That's scary.
And you want to why this if this was last year and they didn't hit runners in scoring position, you're like, well, they didn't do it all year, so why would I expect them to do it in the postseason? They led Major League Baseball
Like a 294
with runners in scoring position, and then in the final 5 games of the championship series, they couldn't buy a hit. You could have gave Edwin Encarnacion a fucking ironing board, and he wouldn't have touched the base. You could have given an ironing board to hit a beach ball, and he still would have struck out.
Mm-hmm.
I think he struck out 11 times in 16 at bats in this series.
It's unacceptable. Unacceptable.
And we're gonna go deeper into this because I'm gonna start on Wednesday with the keep 'em dump 'ems, and we're gonna start in episode 149. I haven't decided which way I'm gonna go yet. If we're gonna do pitching, or position players first, and when we debate this, we're gonna really have to debate on certain guys if their performance in this series changed your mind on whether you
forget. Do we do everyone, whether they're definitely staying or not?
Last year I did everyone, and people were triggered by the fact that I would put.
I think we have enough
like
guys right now
Aaron
that we
Judge
can
on there. I think I'm going to really whittle it down to really.
I think there's
people
enough
that
guys
we can have good debates over.
Yeah, I think there's enough guys to be able to do that.
There is.
But
I was thinking about this. Like, why would I put Jacoby Ellsbury on the list? Everybody wants him to go, and the Yankees can't do anything with him. So what's the point? I think this year we're really going to try to guys that you can really have an interesting debate about.
I don't put anything. I don't put the series on one move or one pitch or anything, in a sense of this is where they lost the series. All I'll say is that this one in particular moment is what could have absolutely swayed this series to go the Yankees' way. And that was Ottavino's home run in game 2. If he doesn't give up that home run to, who was it, Springer?
Yeah.
If he doesn't give up that home run, it's a big if, but if he doesn't give up that home run, the way that the rest of the bullpen looked, man, they probably squeaked that game out and go back home 2-0. I'm not saying that wins them the series, but it definitely changes a lot. It definitely changes a lot. That was a big moment. That was a big game. You want to talk about a swing game? Game 3 is usually the most important. Man, like we said, you never expect the Yankees to go back home up 2-0 after playing 2 games in Houston in the ALCS. But the fact they had that at their fingertips and they couldn't pull through, and they went through how many pitchers and how many pitches and how many innings and fell short. And then they show up in New York, and it was just this shitty storm looming over. The first game was actually nice weather, and they just looked dead. And then after that, it was just one game after the next. Even like we said, game 5, the game they won, they had no right winning it. They came out of the gate and looked just like they did in game 4, with all those errors and just sloppy baseball. That's how they looked to start game 5. They were playing sloppy right off the bat. They gave up a first inning run. They had no right winning that game. Was I happy they did? Fucking of course. It was great. But man, you just knew. You knew no matter what, they just weren't going to pull this off.
Yeah.
And then DJ hits that fucking home run, man. And you're like, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that was the magic. Maybe that was it. But you texted it, Christian, right away, and I was kind of pissed at you when you texted it because it was just in the moment. But you said that wasn't going to be enough. And I was probably pissed because I was feeling it too, and I didn't want to admit it. But you said it wasn't going to be enough. Not against this team. They had to win it there. They had to take the lead there. Didn't happen. What you said happened absolutely did.
The best part about this team for me was the different ways in which they were able to win games this year. It was somebody stepping up one day, and then it was another guy. It was a great defensive game. It was a power game. It was a contact game. But then in this series, they became almost one-dimensional. They relied on the long ball to get the runs. That was the only way they were scoring after that first game. That was the only way they were crossing the plate.
That's the only way Houston scored too.
Right? Yeah, but this is just the Yankees.
But I'm saying
No,
everybody that
No,
wants
I know.
to say that the Yankees
no, I
rely
mean, look
too
at what
much
you
on the
just said.
home run.
Right.
That's how Houston won the
Right.
series.
Yeah.
What I'm saying is and that is a way you can win, but when you're not doing that all year and you're finding different ways to win, and your bottom of the lineup is stepping up, they look like they're top of the lineup type of guys. Your 6 through 9 hitters, they disappeared in this series for the most part.
But you want to know
Sure.
and somebody that really I earned a lot of my respect in Game 6 was Gio Urshela.
Sure, yeah,
Because he showed up to play in Game 6.
Yeah,
Yep.
You couldn't find him in the postseason. I mean, he made some nice defensive plays, but he didn't do shit with the bat. And you're saying to yourself, "Oh, is he turning back into a pumpkin? Is he turning back into Gio Urshela?" And he showed up in Game 6. They're not even in position to tie that game if it's not for him. He was on base all
you're
4
right.
times.
And let's just talk about how important Judge's defense was, because did he ever come through in the big spot offensively all series? Maybe once.
He hit that home run off of Verlander in Game 2.
Yeah. Other than that,
No, he did not have a good series,
but defensively, he really made up for it. I mean, how many runs did he save, whether it went down as a save run or not, in the stupid statistical, whatever analysis? How many runs did he truly save? He was phenomenal out there.
you saw that ball that he
Yes.
stopped with his hand.
Yeah.
That gets by him. Houston's
That's
going
it.
to score again.
yeah,
Right.
that was nice.
Right.
And I tweeted this out, and I wanted to know legitimately. I wasn't looking to argue with anybody, but, everybody was calling for Gary Sanchez's head. They wanted Austin Romine to catch and bench Gary. And I'm saying, and I said, Judge is struggling, but he's not struggling as bad as Gary, because Judge is still up there working at bats, getting his walks, If Judge was mired in Gary, sometimes he looks like he doesn't have a clue up there. You have to be fair about it.
Yeah.
At least Judge is seeing up there. He's trying to work counts, have an approach up there. If he looked like Gary Sanchez up there, and I said this, would you be calling for Cameron Maybin to be starting over Aaron Judge? And
Negative.
the answer that a lot of the answers that I got is that fans were saying no, because there's one thing that Aaron Judge can provide that Gary Sanchez doesn't, and that's great defense. Judge is still providing extreme value on the field even when he's not hitting, and people never give him and say this all the time. He does not get the credit he deserves for being a right fielder.
I think he's starting to. I really do. I think he's starting to, especially making some of those big plays on national, during national games. But it's just a matter of not seeing him that way. You see Aaron Judge, you see a home run hitting superstar, power bat. Defense will always be secondary to that. And really, right now, it shouldn't be. I mean, that's how good he is in right field. You can make an argument he's the best defensive right fielder in the game. Probably him and Mookie Betts. I mean, there's really no one else on the same planet right now.
Yeah, and to be honest, I think in this series he kind of separated himself defensively from Mookie.
Yeah, he
Betts.
could have. He
I don't
might
know.
He might have.
I trust Aaron Judge more than any right fielder right now. But I mean, I'm a biased Yankee fan. That's the only right fielder I watch consistently. But I mean, just look at the plays he made in this series. Like you just said, that last play at the end there.
Crazy.
The game would have been over before we had the.
So what went wrong though? What's the main thing? I mean, you read those stats, whether they're inflated or not from game 1. What went wrong? I mean, can you blame it on one guy?
Did a DH have a hit in this series for the Yankees?
Honestly,
Can you blame it on the DH?
Encarnacion had one hit, I think.
Yeah, at home. Game 3.
They had, you want to blame anything, they just did not. They just didn't come through with the big hit. They didn't.
They just didn't execute. And people are saying, people are talking about the talent and that they didn't have the talent to take them to the promised land. I disagree. I just think that talent didn't execute what they've been doing all year. Is that fair?
Say that again.
I completely agree.
People kept saying to me they didn't have the talent to win it all.
Oh,
I disagree.
That's not right.
I think they did.
No.
I think the talent just didn't execute.
They come through with two hits. That's it. And if Gary Sanchez comes through with a hit against Zach Greinke in Game 4, the Yankees win that game. Mm-hmm. Zach Greinke's out of the game at that point.
Yep.
And you see how quickly it changes. That Greinke, who could not find the plate, gets strike one called on a borderline at best pitch, changes the whole at bat, and gets him out of the inning, and changed the entire game. This is what upsets me the most about umpires. They think there's no consequence to their actions. Oh, if I just call this a strike, but it's not really, what's it really going to mean? It cost the and you can say that I'm being overly dramatic. It cost the Yankees a game, in my opinion. If Gary Sanchez goes up 1-0 in that count, Zach Greinke's liable to not even throw another strike in that at bat.
Okay, I will agree with you if you're putting it on Zach Greinke and not on Gary Sheffield. Jesus Christ. On Gary Sanchez. If you're going to sit here and tell me that sways the at-bat in a sense of Greinke not throwing another strike, fine. But I'm not going to sit here and agree with you if you're saying that it puts Gary in a better position to get a base hit, because it's something he really didn't do all series.
Okay, but wouldn't you rather be up 1-0 than down?
100%. I just think no matter what, at that point in time, Gary was so lost it didn't matter what the count would be. Now, if you want to tell me that it puts more pressure on Zach Greinke to then throw a strike and to get through that at bat, I will agree with you 100%. I mean, that could have swayed his entire outing at that point. But I'm not going to sit here and blame an umpire for putting Gary Sanchez in a bad spot because, man, he just looked so lost. And he started to come around at the end. He had a nice home run. He had another RBI hit. I think he, maybe had a couple more hits.
I'm not saying the pitch was even that bad, but you just see how quickly
it changes.
Yeah. If that's a
Absolutely.
ball, that's a complete. We might be talking about something completely different right now.
These umpires hold a lot of weight in the results of these games.
And apparently, the guy that was behind the plate in Game 6 had the worst rated game in the postseason in terms of calling balls and strikes.
Yeah. I guess what? I could have fucking told you that. I mean,
that one strike he called on Houston.
He had an atrocious
worst call I've ever seen.
That at bat against in Gardner, he had against Gardner,
Terrible.
where he gave him the inside and the outside corner.
Terrible.
And you know what? John Smoltz even said this, and I had my issues with John Smoltz. I think he's a fucking dipshit.
Yeah.
And you can tell me whatever you want that I'm wrong. He's still completely.
No, you're right.
He's completely still completely butthurt that the Yankees won 8 straight World Series games against his Braves back in 96 and 99. He's still upset about that.
Mm-hmm.
And quite honestly, I'd probably still be upset about it too. Okay?
Same.
But he said it. Listen, you can't give the pitcher inside and outside. That's not fair to the batter. If you want to establish one side of the plate where you're going to give a little bit extra, that's fine, but you can't give extra on the other side of the plate.
No, you can't. You're either giving on the inside part or the outside part.
Yep.
And one thing I always try and tell Ryan too when we're watching the game, it doesn't matter if it's a lefty or a righty. If you're an umpire giving the outside corner, it's the outside corner. If you're giving the inside corner, you're giving the inside corner. It depends on the batter. But you can't give both. It's bullshit. It's completely unfair because you can only expect a batter to adjust so much to your strike zone at that point. It's just completely, I mean, and I'm not even saying that this is why the Yankees lost. Houston got just as bad call. I mean, Yankees definitely had some really tough ones in some big spots. But the way he was calling for Houston, too, was just, oh, my, it was tough to watch.
You know where it really screws you, too? Like, the main example I'm picturing in my head is Aaron Judge. I think it was that same game, called a very low breaking ball for a strike. It was way out of the zone. But what that does is now Aaron Judge is up there saying, all right, I got to swing
Gotta
at this
protect
pitch
the low
because it's a
pitch.
strike.
Yep.
So then the next pitch, it's even further down out of the zone, but he had to swing at it because he thought maybe it was going to be a strike. So it changes your entire approach up there. At least I would say so.
And here's
I mean, that goes a long way, man.
And here's my thing: as fans, sometimes we're unfair because we have that K zone now.
Yeah.
And like the pitch can be like a hairline off the plate, and we see it missed, and it's a big spot. So as fans, we're kind of a little over dramatic about it, and we're flipping out. These weren't even close.
No.
I mean, the one pitch that comes to my mind is the Astros were on the mound. The ball was right over the plate. It was right over the plate.
Yeah, that was the worst call
And he called it a ball.
I've ever seen in my life.
He called it a ball. You can't. And what does that do to both sides? Whether it's the Yankees getting screwed or the Astros at the time, to both sides, it ruins your approach at the plate. Because this guy, you don't know what he's calling a strike. So now in your mind, you're getting up there and you're saying anything close, I got to swing at. And with the way some of the Yankee hitters looked, it definitely went against them. Because guys like Gary, guys like Edwin, they're already swinging at shit off the plate. Now they're swinging at everything. And it just, I mean, you can't have that in the postseason. You can't have it ever. But you certainly can't have it in the postseason.
Hey, you know what? That was a big at bat. I think Artie was up with 2 runners on. You know, you're an umpire. You got to be better in that situation.
Absolutely.
You got to read the room. You know that this is Game 6. The Yankees are facing elimination. You know, they got a scoring opportunity here. You got to read the room. And obviously, you know, if that had happened to Houston, we wouldn't be, you know, yelling about it because, you know, screw them, right? But still, even as a baseball fan, you umpires have to be better in these situations.
Listen, as a baseball fan, I make sure I say out loud that a pitch is bullshit. And when the Astros were getting bullshit calls against them, I said it out loud. I wasn't as pissed off, obviously, but I'm still able to say what's right and what's wrong at that point.
All right, so right or wrong. Okay, let's segue into the next part of the show here. Right or wrong. Should Aroldis Chapman have pitched to Jose Altuve at the end of the game?
I am a firm believer in not getting beat by Altuve there. And now you made me really think. If you want to say your part of what you texted us, because it was your thought, you say that, and then I'll give you my points. Because what I feel is really based a lot off of what you said.
I don't know, and I know things have changed in baseball with analytics, and maybe now it's okay to walk the winning run into scoring position. But when I learned how to play baseball and I learned the nuances of the game, you didn't walk the winning run into scoring position with 2 outs. Okay? You didn't do that. And I understand it's Jose Altuve. The guy's an MVP. He's one of the best players in Major League Baseball. I fucking hate his guts, but he is. Okay? And Jake Marisnick is a backup player. I get all that.
After the series, man, I'm being honest, you can probably argue he's the best player in baseball.
I don't know about that.
No, he is.
No, come on.
He is. No other player
going.
comes through that way.
What's your point?
My point is that I understand that it's Altuve, a top 5 player in the game, versus Jake Marisnick, a fucking bench player. That's what you're doing. But you're going to walk the winning run into scoring position where now you're allowing yourself to be beat by a duck snort that falls into the grass there. I'm not doing it. Aroldis Chapman's got it. Aroldis Chapman's one of the best closers in baseball. You got to make your pitches there. That's first off. And second off, now you're going to walk out. You're going to walk a runner into scoring position. Everybody's bitching and complaining that Gary Sanchez sucks defensively. And to be fair, he did have a rough couple of games towards the end of the season. He was like a brick wall back there through what? Game 4 maybe? Game 3? Had to really improve this year. Really had a great series behind the plate against Minnesota. Was good the first couple of games, and I don't know what happened to him. He kind of he had vertigo again, where he reverted back into being a subpar defensive catcher in terms of keeping the ball in front of him. So now what you want to do is you want to push this runner in a scoring position, and then you don't trust Gary Sanchez to block the ball against a guy who bounces sliders routinely. So now you want to give this runner, now you want to be able to put this runner at third base, right? Where now anything can friggin' happen, and this you can give the Astros a cheap run and win the game there. I know it's Jose Altuve versus Jake Marisnick, but you don't walk, not intentionally at least. You want to be really careful to him and try to live on the corners. I don't have a problem with that. But you can't just say 4, put him on base. You can't do that. I'm sorry. Not in that situation. Absolutely not. Now with your season on the line, am I putting the winning run in scoring position?
Now, I have a question. Was that a 2-0 count on Altuve?
He
hit the home run?
No, it was 2-1.
Or it was 2-1. Here's why I disagree, and I would have walked him. I wouldn't have given him the free pass right out of the gate. I would have hoped that Chapman could work ahead of the count, and if he did, then I'd keep attacking him. But he fell behind, and here's the one thing I noticed during that appearance for Chapman was that his fastball command was non-existent. It didn't exist.
He just lost it against Springer.
So
I
now,
don't know what the heck.
Watching that Altuve at bat before it even started, I said, if he doesn't spot this fastball for a strike, he has to intentionally walk him, because then what's the only other option for Aroldis Chapman? If you're not throwing the fastball, you got to throw the slider. And and I said it before it happened, unfortunately, that if he hung a slider, Altuve was going to hit a bomb.
Sliders.
So instead of giving a guy like Altuve, an MVP winner, that slider, I think since his fastball wasn't working there, I would have elected to put him on first base and gone on to Marisnick. Not because it was necessarily Altuve, but because of the repertoire that Aroldis Chapman features, and it wasn't working the way it usually does, and that bodes terribly against a guy like Jose Altuve, who just absolutely mashes a slider that misses. And that was probably the worst pitch Chapman's, considering the context too, the worst pitch he's thrown all year, an 84-mile-an-hour slider just right down the middle.
Here's my take. I thought a lot about what you said, because it is true. It's the golden rule. It's an unwritten rule. You don't walk the winning run into scoring position. You never do it.
Springer was at second base. Obviously, it's an obvious no-brainer.
Right.
But he wasn't.
I agree.
You're pushing the winning run into scoring position.
But here's my problem. Regardless of the outcome, in a guy like Altuve, he is the winning run. He is the run. In one swing of the bat, he can ruin a season, and he did it. So at that point, we watch a game now that features everything around analytics. Where's the analytics here? Where's the analytics that tell me what better chances Aroldis Chapman has at getting a guy like Marisnick out than Jose Altuve? Where are my analytics? How many swings and misses does Marisnick have on a slider more than Altuve? You can't have a game that is completely run by analytics come down to chance after your team just hits a 2-run home run and you have the best hitter in baseball right now up at the plate. In my opinion, and I thought long and hard about it after you said it, Jose Altuve is the winning run. In this situation with who was on deck, you're not walking the winning run in. He's at the plate because of what he did and what he's capable of doing. So at that point, I'm not getting beat by Jose Altuve. I'm sorry. Give me Marisnick. If Marisnick wants to be Luis Gonzalez's hero and bloop one over Didi's head and the winning run scores, I'll live with that way more than a guy who has continuously killed us, hitting one off the wall.
Yeah, but
and sending his team into the World Series.
Obviously, the manager didn't want to live with that.
But listen, and I'm not saying intentionally walk him. Throw it in the dirt. Throw it in the dirt 4 times. I don't care. Throw him high fastballs. He's 5 feet. He's 5 feet tall. Throw it high.
Plus, how many times were the Yankees beat by that typical bloop hit with a runner in scoring position this series? How many times did it happen, really? One or two times where the Astros scored by getting a hit instead of a home run, or just a typical regular hit instead of a home
Your
run.
entire season is on the line. I
Yeah,
understand who it is and who's on deck, but you can't put the winning run in scoring position. You can't do it.
They didn't.
And they lost, and they would have,
Right.
and you know what? They would have fucking lost anyway. So it doesn't really matter. But
Maybe they would have.
I can't. I'm not. Honestly, I don't think there was anything wrong with it. And you know what? Part of this is hindsight is 2020. I'm not saying that yous are doing it, but people are doing it. Say, why didn't you walk him? Well, you weren't saying that until he hit the home run. Because you don't walk.
Who did he walk before him?
Springer.
There's your problem. I mean, there's your issue right there.
But how many times have you seen him get wild for a batter and then
But
settle
dude,
in?
He looked so good on the first 2 outs.
And how many
so
times have we
good.
seen that? And he gets
All the
out of
time.
it.
Yeah.
I know it's Jose Altuve, but that's also Aroldis Chapman. Is he not one of the best closers in Major League Baseball? Do you have any faith in him?
The problem was
Totally have faith in him.
the problem is exactly what Ryan said. You have to evaluate what went wrong in the batter previous to him. And that's he completely did not have command of his fastball. He was relying on that slider pitch after pitch for a strike. And you can't do that to a guy like Altuve. I mean, if you're going to face him, you got to be smarter. You have to at least know in the back of your mind that if you do walk him, whether you're trying to get him out or not, it's not the end of the world. You can't just lay a slider over the middle of the plate.
Well, that's what his big problem was. Is that he threw a terrible pitch
On a pitch that needed to be his best, it was his worst. And then he smiled like something was funny.
It was. I totally disagree with you on that.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. I actually didn't feel that way when he was smirking. It was more of just like, I can't. That really just friggin' happened.
It bothered me a lot.
Well, it shouldn't.
Why?
I could see if it bothers you, but it didn't bother me.
I think that's one of the biggest overreactions of this entire thing. Is people getting mad. at
people
him.
are getting mad at that?
Yeah.
I
You were.
have been off social media.
Yeah, you were mad at it. Why do you think you're the only one that was mad at it? I think that's
no,
one of the
I didn't know that was a thing though.
biggest overreactions that people were having about him.
That didn't.
It was not like he was like smiling for his class pictures.
Yeah, and he wasn't like clapping and
Back
being
to
happy for Houston.
go back to other teams getting eliminated and what the pitchers do. You put your head down.
Hey,
you walk
that's
off
a
the
coping
field.
mechanism.
Hey Chris, you
Sometimes-
want to know something? Guess who else smirked after giving up a game-winning hit in 2000 in the 2001 World Series? You think
No.
Mariano Rivera didn't give a shit?
He smirked.
He smirked.
I'll look
kind
for
of
that.
remember him smirking.
I don't think he smirked.
I did. I saw the
We
picture.
gotta
Somebody
pull
put
that
it
up.
on Twitter.
Really?
Wow.
Yeah. And it was that same I can't believe
Yeah,
that just
like,
fucking happened.
Your eyes are glassy, and you're just like, what?
If you really think he's smiling because he's like, yeah, that's
It's like a shock smile.
No. It was more of like, at that point, if that's how you're going to cope with it, get in the dugout and cope with it. Don't just stand there.
That's just a
That's
media
a mechanism.
reaction.
That's some people's
What do you
mechanism.
think? You think he's gonna
It bothered
he's gonna
me.
wait 20
I
minutes to
hear
go
you.
into the dugout to start smiling? Because then everybody's gonna be like, "What the fuck is wrong with you?"
It bothered
I
me.
guarantee you, there's nobody on his team that had a problem with it.
I'm not sitting here saying he shouldn't be our closer or that he's a piece of shit.
No, just
It bothered me in the moment because as a fan, I put everything into these games.
And you don't think he did? You don't think he's upset by it?
He didn't look upset.
It doesn't matter what he looked like to you.
Yeah, Chris, come on. That's
Honestly,
You're
I'm
better
sorry.
I'm not. Okay, you're right. I'm not going to say he wasn't upset. I didn't like how he handled it in the moment. I didn't.
fair. I see that.
I don't
I'm
know.
not
And
sitting
plus-
here
and
saying
plus
he
the way
wanted
that
that to happen or that it didn't
the way his
affect him.
teeth were showing too, it was just like that's not a smile. That's just like
It's like,
what
what
the
just
fuck?
happened?
It bothered me.
Okay, well, you need to get over it.
I'm already over it.
Okay.
It just bothered me. I didn't think that was the way to handle that situation. From what I remember
Okay,
in
so
2001.
when something devastating happens to you, we'll all judge you on the way you handle it.
I mean,
When you have a colossal failure in front of the entire world, and we'll judge you on the way you handle it.
for me as a fan, call it stupid or not, I put myself in that situation. How I felt when Altuve swung on that pitch and I immediately watched it and knew it was a home run is exactly how I expect those guys to feel that are making me feel
What
that
do you
way.
know what he felt inside of him?
okay, you are right on that, and I said that.
No, in the moment I could see.
But in the moment, it didn't feel that way.
That was
and that's what
first of all,
bothered
that
me.
was the last thing on my mind. What his face
Yeah,
looked like when that
I
happened.
didn't care about it. I was just mad they lost.
Okay, so we're gonna wrap up the show with this final topic here. Okay, and there's gonna be plenty of time to sit here and break all this down and who's coming and who's going and will anything change. But I think for now, since and this is another thing that I said. Everybody, as soon as the ball didn't even hit the fucking wall yet, and everybody's like, "Oh, well, we gotta get Garrett Cole." And I said, like, I just don't have that in me right now to sit there and think about next year.
No, it's the first time I didn't.
But yesterday, like, you had a day to process it, and now you can sit here and like you're kind of past the initial depression. The first wave of depression is past. Now you got to sit there and think about it, right? I tweeted this yesterday. Is Garrett Cole the guy? Because we've seen Brian Cashman pass on a lot of high-priced players in recent years. No Manny Machado, and if there was Manny Machado, there'd be no DJ LeMahieu, so that was a good one. No Bryce Harper. Now, Bryce Harper leaves Washington. They make the World Series, so draw your own conclusions there. So maybe that was a good one. They didn't want to go to 6 year to Patrick Corbin. They give Patrick Corbin 6 years. He's a Yankee. They didn't want to go past 5. He's in Washington. Okay. Is Garrett Cole the guy that will make Brian Cashman change his philosophy? And now I don't want, everybody's like, well, it's not up to him. It's up to Hal. Well, you know what? Hal Steinbrenner told Brian Cashman there was no mandate on the luxury tax in 2019. There was a mandate on luxury tax in 2017. No mandate in 2019. And then you get people to tell you, well, how do you know Hal's telling the truth? Well, okay. I mean, how do you know anybody's telling the truth? I got to take the man at his word. If the Yankees weren't allowed to go over the luxury tax this year, why did they go over the luxury tax this year? Why was Brian Cashman trying to make trades at the trade deadline if they weren't allowed to go over the luxury tax? Right? Mm-hmm. Am I wrong in saying that?
No.
And hear me, I think I'm trying to be fair here and saying if they don't win next year, I want Brian Cashman out of here. So, I don't really want to defend them too much at this point, but come on. Or Hal. If Brian Cashman goes up to Hal Steinbrenner and says, Hal, I need this fucking guy. Don't you want to win? I need this guy. I got to believe Hal Steinbrenner is going to say yes, because I don't think Brian Cashman has went to him and said, Hal, I need this guy with anybody that we talked about.
Okay, but here's the thing I'll contradict you with. I'll hit you back with, because I think you're contradicting yourself unintentionally. How much are you trusting your GM telling you need this guy to win it, when that same GM told you and told the rest of the world that what he was doing was to win everything in 2019 and you fell short?
But here's my point that I'm trying to get to. Okay, I got off on a sidetrack of people that think that Hal is just being cheap, which I don't agree with at all. Okay, I don't. Until I see real evidence otherwise, I don't agree with it. If it comes out that Brian Cashman wanted to give Garrett Cole 7 years, $280 million, and Hal was like, no, then yeah, you can call Hal Steinbrenner cheap. You can do it. Until I have evidence of that, I'm not doing it. Okay? And we've seen that Brian Cashman has drawn a line in the sand on some of these big contracts. But is Garrett Cole the guy that he changes his philosophy for? Because now this will be the third opportunity the Yankees have had to try to get this guy. They drafted him in 2008. He chose to go to college. And we said this, I think it was last week. How big of a Yankee fan are you that you went to fucking college instead of playing for the Yankees?
Douche.
Okay. Number 2, he tried to trade for him. It was 2017 offseason.
Going into 2017 season.
He tried to trade for him. Neil Huntington, I believe is his name, the GM of the Pirates, did not really want to do business with Brian Cashman because he asked for way more from the Yankees than he ended up getting from the Houston Astros. And you can say, well, it was Clint Frazier, Miguel Andujar, and these are guys that Brian Cashman probably would like to trade now.
And guys, the most important thing of what Christian's saying right now is not about the players or what the Pirates wanted. The most important thing is to look at the pitcher Garrett Cole was at the time.
Oh, absolutely.
Okay.
He really didn't warrant.
He gave up way too many home runs. I think he was coming off a season with a 4-something ERA. He was not this guy. Will he be this guy if the Yankees get him? That's something we don't even know. Whatever the Astros are doing, whether it be the technology they're using, the pitching coach, they are doing something extremely right when it comes to the pitching. Putting aside everything else.
12 with a 4.26.
There you go. So we can't.
And that was a down year for him.
We can't look back at that trade and necessarily say we should have given up this guy or that guy. You weren't trading for the same guy you're watching right now. If that trade came to the table now, do you think Cashman would say no?
Brian Cashman would drag. He would literally drag Andujar and Frazier by their ankles from the Bronx to Pittsburgh, and he would walk every step of the way to do it.
Right.
And he would probably try to, do a lot of other things to get that deal done.
Yes. So that's a big part of this, man.
So now that only money stands in the way of getting Garrett Cole to the Yankees, is this the guy that Brian Cashman says, yeah, I'm gonna break the bank for him.
All I can say is it fucking better be.
Well, here's why I think it has to be. If you ask these questions, ready? Do the Yankees win this series if they had Garrett Cole?
Probably.
Yes, whether he pitched that great or not,
Does
the
Houston,
Astros don't have him.
That's the point I'm getting to. Does Houston get to where they are without Garrett Cole?
Probably not.
Probably not, but
It's
possibly.
a bit harder, a bit more difficult without him in the equation.
But possibly because...
So you would be killing two birds with one stone if you get Garrett Cole, because not only would you be adding your bona fide ace to this rotation, but you would be removing him from your biggest obstacle of the past 2 years.
That's a big,
So that's why the move is a no-brainer, in my opinion, regardless of how much money it's going to cost. It's the fact that you're going to add somebody to your rotation that is a top-flight guy, and you're taking him away from a place that he has proven to be an incredible pitcher.
Is it true that Houston, no matter what, can't afford him? I mean, that's what everyone's saying.
No, what everyone's saying, and this is what I want, this is another thing that I want to get to here, is that he wants to go home. He wants to go back to California. I just read an article from Buster Olney today that it is expected that he wants to sign. He wants to sign with a California team, preferably the Angels, because they play 10 miles from where he went to high school. That is what is believed around his teammates in Houston believe that's where he wants to go.
And what did CeCe want?
Here, this is what I'm going to, you took the words right out of my mouth.
What did CeCe want?
He wanted to go to the Dodgers or the Angels. He did not. He wanted nothing, absolutely nothing to do with New York. He wanted absolutely nothing to do with New York. He wanted to go to the Dodgers. The Dodgers really weren't interested. He got a $100 million offer from the Angels, and his agent told the Yankees, if you want him, you have to blow this contract out of the water. And Cashman offered him $60 million more than the Angels did. And CeCe was like, I'd be stupid to say no to this.
CeCe pulled the Tom Brady. And he was like, what do I get?
And he came here, and he ended up loving it. So, and I tweeted this last night, and Brian Hoke, and it was part of the reason why we love him so much. And I said, Brian Cashman needs to remember all the legwork. And you got to read Mission 27 because it goes beyond just offering him $60 million more. It's everything, and I don't remember everything all the time in my head, but Brian Cashman put out a full court press to get CeCe Sabathia on the Yankees, visited him, did all this other shit, okay? And I said, if Brian Cashman needs a reminder, maybe Brian Hoke can send him a copy of Mission 27. And Hoke tweeted me back a picture of Brian Cashman holding the book today. So good job out of Brian Hoke there. So Cashman can't just be like, well, he wants to go to California, so there's nothing I can really do about it. Remember that CeCe Sabathia wanted to go to California, and he pitched the last 11 years as a New York Yankee. So remember that.
And if he does go into the Hall of Fame, it will be as a New York Yankee.
Just remember that you, at one time, convinced the guy that wanted nothing to do with New York to come to New York. Now, if the Yankees drop 7 years, $280 million, which is absurd, but if that's what they did, they put that in front of Garrett Cole, and Garrett Cole said, I really want to go to California, I can live with that.
If he takes less money to go to California and money was not what got in the way, there's nothing you can do at that point.
I live with that because you know what then I said? Brian Cashman did everything in his power to sign this guy, and this guy just didn't want to be here.
Yep.
And one thing he can't do, I'm not saying that Steven Strasburg's anything to sneeze at, but you can't let Cole play hardball and let him walk and test out and not match and beat anything he gets just because you have Steven Strasburg that you can fall on. They are on two different
too, right?
Two different planets. Two different planets. You want to know why? Because as much as I respect Bumgarner for what he's done in the past, what Garrett Cole did was yesterday.
Yeah.
Was 2 days ago.
100%.
It happened now. This guy's going to be pitching game 1 in the World Series, and I promise you, he's going to continue this streak of just being untouchable. You can't pass up on this guy. If he comes here and he's a bust, and I hear one Yankee fan say he was a waste of money, I will go back and I will continue to replay all of his tapes of what he did in this postseason and why he's getting the money he got. It's up to him to execute, of course, but there's no excuse. There's nothing that should be put in the way of Garrett Cole coming to New York unless it's his true decision to go somewhere else and it wasn't about the money. If he ends up in a different team anywhere, you better show me that he took less money and it wasn't about the money, or else I'm not okay with it.
Well, you could take the same money.
Same money and didn't come back to Cashman to beat it?
Well, it doesn't matter at that point. I'm saying if the Yankees made their best, and we'll know what their best effort was.
All I'm saying is, Cashman, you better prove to me that it wasn't money that got in the way, that it was this guy truly just making that decision.
You know, they're offering this guy $35 million a year to pitch for him. He doesn't want to come here. I mean, what are you going to do?
Here's one thing. I mean, I know the Yankees to us didn't put up a fight, but we're talking about a team who's just going to continue to be great year in and year out. The Yankees proved a lot to this guy testing the open market, that if he's going to go somewhere and tasting what he's about to taste, winning that pennant, probably winning the World Series, you think he wants to go to the Angels after that? You think you want to take what you just had and say, this is probably it for me?
Well, this is what I said also. I'm rooting for Washington in the World Series. I probably won't watch much of it because I need a series buffer in between when the Yankees get eliminated and when I start watching baseball again. So I didn't really watch much of the LCSs last year. I watched the World Series. Like this year, they just got out. They just got eliminated. So maybe if this series goes, it's tied after 4 games, maybe I'll pick up on it. But, it's just the way my grieving process from when the Yankees get eliminated, right? But I'm rooting for the Washington Nationals to win this World Series. And it's not because I'm bitter. I'm bitter, but I'm not rooting for them because I'm bitter. Because generally speaking, if my team gets eliminated, I want to lose to the team that team win the championship. Whether it be the Giants, I want that team to win the Super Bowl. The Yankees, I want that team to win the World Series. Because to me, if you're going to beat me and you don't win the World Series, it's really going to piss me off even more. Like, you fucking couldn't get the job done. You beat us, and then you fold it like a whatever the bullshit is.
But you're gonna root for the Nationals this time
Because he wants Cole to be hungry for that.
I want Cole to be hungry.
Okay.
I don't want him coming into New York. Let's say the Yankees are able to convince him here. I don't want him coming into New York with a fat contract and a World Series title where he's like, I got everything I need. I want him to taste it, but not eat the whole steak. I want him to get a bite of it and come here and be hungry, just like Aaron Judge and Gleyber Torres and James Paxton and all these other guys are hungry to win.
I agree.
Same.
I never thought of it that way.
That's a great way to think of it.
Here's the thing, though. If the Astros do win the World Series, we will once again, for the 3rd year in a row, be taken out by the World Series champions.
That's like 0.00001% of a consolation prize.
I'm just saying, it's just we're always being beat by.
But I did say though, if you're gonna beat my team, can you please win? Can you because if you're gonna end up losing, why didn't you just lose to us?
Yeah, assholes.
Seriously.
All right, we felt their feelings in the beginning of the show. We're going to close the show with the fans feeling their feelings. Going to read a few tweets here. I asked for them yesterday. Wanted to get the fans' take on the season. I said, what are your thoughts and feelings about the 2019 season? How do you feel about the team going into 2020? So I'll read a handful of tweets here. Our friend Beth Wellington, she's very disappointed with everything they overcame. This felt like our year. Winning the East was nice, but it means nothing without a ring. For 2020, I expect some pitchers who can go more than 4 innings per game so we don't tax our bullpen.
Fair.
You okay with that, Ryan?
Yeah, great point. I mean, that's exactly something that, it would have made it easier, like you said, if we had some pitchers that gave them depth.
All right. Here's Paul Sherman. I thought Boone managed differently in the playoffs. Didn't feel like the next man up got them through. Didn't feel like the next man up that got them through the regular season. Need to play looser in the playoffs. You can disagree, but give me Voit and Tauchman over Stanton and Encarnacion. Voit brings positive vibes. Mike Tauchman was hurt. He could have been an option late in the ALCS, but he was hurt. Voit could, and we made the joke about Encarnacion not being able to hit a beach ball with an ironing board in the postseason. Voit was in that same boat in the regular season. That's why he didn't sniff the field in the DS, and that's why he wasn't even on the roster in the championship series. So I do have to disagree with that. And you know what? Yeah, the next man up thing was cool. It was fun. But, dude, if you got Giancarlo Stanton healthy, you're going to fucking play him. You're going to play him.
What was the Yankees' record with Giancarlo Stanton in the lineup?
It was 5-0 in the postseason.
What was their record without him in
It
the lineup?
was 0-4.
Do you think that's just a coincidence, or do you think having his presence in what
I
doing,
don't think shit like that is a coincidence. I would have played if he was active, and I don't care if he couldn't even swing the bat. If he was active, I would have put him in the lineup in Game 6 just because of that stat.
It's what he did to this lineup. It's the versatility he brought to this lineup. Seeing pitches, having that presence. By the end of this thing, do you know what Encarnacion was? Not just to us as fans or to the Yankees. Do you know what he was to the Astros?
An easy out?
An easy out in the middle of the lineup. You can't have that. Giancarlo Stanton, I don't care if he walked a million times and, grounded out his other times and only had 1 home run. He wasn't an automatic out. He was creating more pitches, seeing better pitches. He changed this lineup.
And I don't think Boone really did a bad job managing in this series. I think he made moves. Some of them worked, some of them didn't. But at the end of the day, this was on the players. I don't think this was what was going on off the field. I think it was guys not coming through when they had to on the field. That Aaron Boone can only do so much.
Can you rip
right? Do you guys? What do you guys think? Do you think Aaron Boone was a big reason why the Yankees are home right now?
No. Can you rip Boone for certain moves he made? Sure, you can question him. But at the end of the day, we know the New York Yankees and how they operate. And as a fan, you have to know this. They went into this with a game plan. And that game plan was exactly, again, Rye, what you said they were going to do going into it. And that was utilize this bullpen every second they got a chance to. That's how this team was built. And that might be what the problem is, but that's how this team was built.
And everybody that said that rain out benefited the Yankees, I knew it didn't.
Yep.
It screwed them royally because of the fact that they would have to play 4 straight games if they got to Game 7. And Boone, one time all year, pitched a guy 3 days in a row, and that was Tommy Kahnle in this series. So that
absolutely
for that alone, I had a bad feeling after that rain out. Just a couple more here. We got Ned Stark. I feel like that's a Game of Thrones thing.
It is.
Maybe it might be his real name. I don't know.
Yeah.
They accomplished a hell of a lot while dealing with ridiculous amount of injuries. For that, Boone has to get Manager of the Year. Small consolation, but it is a good sign that the guys who were there played so well for him. He should be around for a while if he gets to the World Series next year.
And Rocco Baldelli is going to win Manager of the Year, unfortunately. There's no chance.
Listen, I'm all for getting rid of Cashman at that point. If you don't make it next year, I'm not okay with getting rid of Boone just yet. He's gotten way too much out of these guys, especially this year. and a team that had no right winning as many games as they did.
Yeah, but when you fired a GM and the manager stays in place and you hire a new GM, you're setting your franchise back a year because now that GM wants
You're
their
right.
own manager.
Happened across the way in Queens. I mean, you think what's his face didn't want can't even think of that.
Brody didn't want Mickey.
Brody didn't want him out of there. Callaway. Now they're looking to hire someone else.
At Samuel taught you the most exciting season to watch from the beginning of it all to the end. Seeing all those players get hurt, and every day someone new stood up and said, "I got it." Incredible season, but unfortunately, it's a failure. If you don't win it all, we have to get Garrett Cole.
That's a great
Hey,
tweet right there.
Listen, just to piggyback on what you guys said before, you want to break this thing down, regular season throughout everything? No, of course it's not a failure. I mean, first of all, we take for granted way too much, and I'm not saying that this is okay. We take for granted the fact that we watch teams make the postseason, it feels like year in and year out. That's not easy to do. It's just not. Is it a failure? No, we got to watch meaningful baseball until October, mid-October.
Mm-hmm.
That's awesome as a fan, whether they won it all or not. I'm sorry. But at the end of the day, this season came down to one thing. For us, we said it and we stuck with it. Minimum pennant. Was this not the World Series for the Astros and the Yankees? Was it not? If they won this.
Seems that way. But who knows?
I mean, if they won this, though, that wouldn't have, and they lost the World Series, yeah, we would have been disappointed. But you walk away with a pennant beating the Astros, you can't say it's a failure. It was a failure.
All right, last one, and I saved the best for last here. Tim Stack tweets us: sign and make Romine the number one catcher. Gary to DH. It'll improve the pitching.
Mm-hmm.
Sign Gardy for 1 year. Say goodbye to Didi.
Mm-hmm.
Use the money for Cole and Betances.
Okay, yeah.
Trade Stanton for prospects.
Oh, my God.
And unless you find out he's a total creep,
Oh, my God.
Oh God.
play Frazier or trade him for starting pitching. So,
Okay.
I didn't really. So,
Can we just leave the fans with that? Do we even have to break that down?
what do you mean?
Like, do we have to break that tweet down?
No, I guess we can just leave it.
Can we just let it
Yeah.
We just let it bask.
Just let that
In-
sit.
in
Let it
the-
simmer.
in the universe?
Let,
Yeah,
let it
please.
just
Please.
let it simmer like
Definitely. Yeah, we're doing that. I'm not talking about
like
that.
you're cooking the meatballs in the sauce. Just let it
Holy
simmer.
Like a crock pot.
Yeah, there
Holy
you go.
fuck.
Jesus Christ.
Unless he's a total creep, play him or trade him. I didn't really, that
What
part.
does that
He
being a creep
sucks.
have to, what does being a creep have to do with any of it?
I don't know.
Oh, you're creepy.
So,
Let it bask.
if his pod ran about an hour and a half, if this was a psychiatry session, you'd probably be jacked for about $150 right now. But we did this shit for you guys for free.
Mm-hmm.
We hope that by being removed from this for an extra day, that we were able to provide the type of relief that you really needed. Everybody got all the screaming out, everybody got all the yelling out, but now you had time to digest it, and hopefully you felt your feelings. You were when we were feeling our feelings, you hopefully were saying it with us.
Mm-hmm.
And if we did that for you, then we did our job here. Okay?
Absolutely.
Yep.
Unfortunately, we're doing this again a little earlier than we wanted to, but some of my favorite shows all year when we do the keep 'em and dump 'ems. And I think this year we have some really, really interesting guys to debate.
But I think you're getting ahead of yourself.
Why is that?
Because I have to remind you that after this episode every year, we do a season recap with the annual NYYST awards. That usually comes next. I was looking through our index of episodes. So we can get the polls going maybe. But is that our next episode?
I had actually forgotten about the awards. I kind of...
You want to just forget them? You think
No.
no one even deserves awards?
I don't know. I'll have to... No, you know what?
Sit on it then, I guess.
No, I don't want to sit on
All
it.
right,
Sleep
we'll make
on
up
it.
your mind.
I think I want to do... I think I just want to
Sleep on
get
it.
into...
keep them dumps.
Yeah, I think I
'Cause
just
it's
want
fresh.
to. I think I want to get into this because
it's a good topic.
I think a lot of fans really have a lot of guys that they're on the fence about right now, and we just started rattling them off as Didi Gregorius and Edwin Encarnacion,
Brett Gardner,
and Brett Gardner, and
Betances.
Dellin and Edwin,
Austin Romine.
Yeah, a lot of guys.
Even did I say Gary Sanchez? But I don't think he's going anywhere.
Voigt.
Yeah, there's a lot of last year.
Miguel
I think,
Andujar.
And listen, when we do
Ooh.
this, it doesn't necessarily mean that these guys can realistically go anywhere. Like Gary Sanchez, right? Could he? Yeah. Is it a topic that's necessarily at the forefront of the Yankees front office right now? No. But we also want to get your take on guys that are, emotionally on the fence for you. And Gary Sanchez is going to be one of those guys.
yes. And then when we get through that, I think then we can sit back and celebrate
I think
this.
that's fair.
I think we can then celebrate the season a little bit.
Yeah, I agree.
Okay.
Let's wallow in negativity for a little bit longer.
I think it's what we have to
Let's
do.
switch it up this year.
All right.
Okay. Because we did it one way for 2 years and Yankees didn't win a goddamn thing. So maybe if we change it, they'll change it. Okay.
Yeah, let's change
Deal.
that.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So thank you for listening to episode 148 of the NYYST podcast. Please follow us on Twitter at NYY Sports Talk. Stat guy Rye.
Go Yanks.
You just got to keep it consistent though, and
Go Yanks.
All right.
Let's go.
Yeah.
Let's go.
It's for the future, but go Yanks. Chris, say goodbye.
Peace.